My guest, Candice Cox, is a licensed clinical social worker and founder of A&A Inspirations. She's also the director and mind behind K.H.A.O.S Inc. She's an author, a motivational speaker, a trainer, and she utilizes innovative and experimental treatment modalities to change the focus of being labeled to living beyond labels. And in 2016, she published her children's book called Please, Oh Please, that focuses on coping and skill building for children with ADHD. She's a winner of several humanitarian awards, and I am thrilled to have her here to talk about chaos mindset. Welcome, Candice.
Thank you for having me. Great day.
Great day. So tell us, what is the chaos mindset?
So the K.H.A.O.S mindset is a mindset I created to kind of urbanize mental health and mental wellness. My thought process is if you're not mentally well, you're mentally ill. That's the reality of it, but society has taught us that when you're not physically well, you're physically ill and you actually do something about it. But when you're not, when you don't feel mentally well, we kind of, stigmatize ourselves or other people kind of make us feel bad about that. And so I wanted to normalize it. And so I take it from regular chaos where we can't help acting out severely to my chaos where we keep healing and overcoming struggles.
I love that reframe.
Thank you. Helping people understand that life is going to happen. Life is going to happen until we take our last breath, but it doesn't mean that it has to stop, helping people understand that we have the ability to, create a new normal. And so with the chaos mindset, we teach people how to assess, address, and reduce the impact of toxic and traumatic stress in their lives. Wow. Helping them recognize that, when I am confronted with something, that I recognize my triggers, I recognize what are the physical things that happen inside of me. And now, I can figure out what to do with those things and I can address them and kind of get in front of it instead of always dealing with things on the back end.
That's huge because I think that most people don't even recognize when they're having a trigger. Like it's just firing off and they have no clue until after the fact. And then they're like, well, I wish I hadn't have acted like that. So how do you get people to recognize when they're having a trigger? What do you advise for them to check in with?
And so one of the biggest things that I teach people about somatics, one of the things is, somatic reactions are the physical manifestations of stress. And so I teach them, what are the things that are happening inside of your body, sitting down and actually being mindful and connecting to yourself. Because if you think about it, we are always connected to what's happening outside of us, but we really don't spend time with connecting what's happening on the inside. And I explain to people that your body lets you know when there's an issue before you even emotionally react to it, but you have to pay attention. And so helping them identify, does my stomach get uneasy? Does my chest get tight? Do my hands start to sweat? Am I starting to kind of bite my jaw? What are the things that are happening with me physically? Is my heart starting to race more? Just what are these things that are happening? And those subtle shifts that occur inside of you when you are, when you're off balance. And so helping people recognize that, because oftentimes we are so busy moving that we don't pay attention to those subtle shifts. And, we don't focus until it's too late. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm off balance now. Before, probably shouldn't have done that.
Right. Now I got to go back and figure out how to fix it, maybe.
Right. But then here it is, I've been triggered and I have had this physical, reaction. And then the physical reaction has transitioned into this emotional reaction. And I have 9 times out of 10, I have been impulsive, emotional, and irrational in the way that I have behaved because I have operated from a place where I was dysregulated. Really helping people recognize what dysregulation is and what it looks like and feels like. So you can also recognize what it looks like when I'm regulated so that I can get to that point.
That's super valuable. I mean, like just knowing what it's like when everything's cool. I love that.
I say, when you're not too bad and you're not too good, you're just chilling. What does that look like for you?
What's that feel like?
Yeah.
So With the chaos mindset, like how does that assist reducing the impact of toxic and traumatic stress?
And so it's being able to kind of recognize how things impact you. And that's big. So we have 4 skills. Our skills are free, raw, reset, and patient. And so a lot of these are all self-reflective. I say happiness, healing, and peace are inside jobs. You have to do the work. But most of the time we are looking at things again at what's happening on the outside and not really tapping into what's happening on the inside. And so when we look at free, free stands for forgive, release, embrace, and elevate. And so being able to one, recognize not only, I say forgiveness is not, where you are walking through the flower garden holding hands and singing.
No.
I there are a lot of people in my life I forgive and I do not fool with. That's just being honest. But forgiveness is getting to a point where you are able to move forward and the person or situation no longer negatively impacts you.
Yeah.
And so teaching what forgiveness is, one, but then also helping people understand the importance of forgiving themselves, giving themselves grace, and forgiving themselves for not being who they felt they should have been in certain situations, but also teaching them to forgive others for not being who you wanted them to be. And
I was told that, I'm sorry, I just had a thought that I was taught that whenever you have someone else to forgive, you always have yourself to forgive, because there's some part of you that's like, I accepted that behavior. So
yeah. And you have to give yourself grace, because you can only do what you know how to do until you learn how to do something different.
Right.
But we often punish ourselves and say, I should have done this, I should have done that. Well, if you were in a space where you felt safe enough to do that, or you felt that was what you should have done, then that is what you would have done, but you weren't in that space. So give yourself grace for operating from the space that you did, and now being able to recognize it, and now you're able to move forward. That's where the R comes from, with releasing yourself from unrealistic expectations, because we often, I tell people all the time, we often hurt our own feelings because we are expecting us out of other people.
I see that a lot.
And so looking at it that way, it's learning how to hold people to their expectations and not yours, and recognizing that sometimes people just don't have the ability to give you what you're looking for. They just don't have it. And so, with releasing, also learning how to embrace. And so embracing your story, that's one of the biggest things, because we are so hard on ourselves. And so embracing your story for what it was, or looking at it, what happened, what it is, how is it impacting me today, and for what it can be, what do I want to do with this going forward, with love and compassion, and not anger, frustration, hostility, and guilt. And then the last E is to elevate. And elevate is to change your mindset. Go from the why to the what and how. What happened? How did it impact me? That's the difference, and I tell everybody, we have to stop being the victims in our own stories, because we victimize ourselves in spaces where we actually have power. And so, that is, really empowering the individual, and then we have raw, which is realize, admit, and work through. And so that's that assessment tool, realizing where's the issue, where am I off balance, where am I dysregulated in my life, and getting your role in it. Not anyone else's, what's my role and what am I doing to keep me in this space? And so, helping people understand that you can't change other people. You can literally only change yourself, the level of access you give people to you, and how you respond to what they do. That's all you have. And so in that situation, and I'm sorry, I think I'm reading. Okay. So in that situation, being able to, to recognize what's my role, again, empowering people, again, taking the focus off of everybody else and putting it on you. And then the W is to work. And work, it is intention, attention, and attitude. Every day being intentional about what you're doing. Get off of autopilot. We teach people about trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And when you are frozen, you're on autopilot, just disassociating and kind of waking up to go to sleep. So I need you to get out of the passenger side of your own car and get back into the driver's seat, Wake up. Be intentional about your actions, be aware of who and what you give your attention to, and then look at how those things impact your attitude. And if they impact you in a negative way, then I need you to make adjustments. That's
Mm,
and so
yeah.
we also have reset, which kind of helps with the thought stopping, remember every situation encourages thought. And so helping people look at situations and what are my choices here? Because we know that trauma, depression, anxiety, they make you feel like you don't have choices when you actually do.
Mm,
And then, our last one is patient. And patient really helps you look at yourself, pause and think, inhale, exhale, now talk or now tap out. So helping
mm,
people pause and think what's happening inside of me. So that's looking at those somatic reactions,
yeah.
that's looking at
Yeah.
those triggers, that's looking at what's happening inside of me, what's happening in my environment, what's happening with the other person that I'm dealing with.
Hmm.
Not to personalize what's happening with the other person, because we often personalize, if someone is having a bad day and we come across them, now we're having a bad day because they were having a
Right.
bad day. Their bad
Right.
day doesn't have anything to do with you. So don't personalize it. But then breathe, inhale and exhale. Take the time to breathe and center yourself. And then the
Yeah.
NT is now talk or now tap out. If you're able to have an assertive conversation about what's going on with you, with the other person you're dealing with, when you can do it from a place of love and compassion and understanding that as soon as you start using words as weapons, you are no longer having a conversation, you're
Right.
engaged in an argument. And if that is what's happening, it's okay to tap out. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to tap out and tap into you. Sometimes you have to tap out and reset. You may have to tap out and get raw, or you may have to tap out and break free. But all of these skills, utilizing them, it helps you be able to assess it, to address it, and to reduce the impact of how things happen in your life.
I love the level of just mindfulness,
Mhm.
vulnerability, realness, and personal responsibility, which turns into empowerment that all of your wonderful acronyms and your work bring to the table. Like it just reminds people, oh yeah, that's right. I need to check in with myself and be mindful. I need to let me just be with where I'm at and how can I move forward from this and be responsible, but and be empowered in my own responsibility.
Yes, one of the things we teach with chaos is the relationship that you have with yourself is the most important relationship that you're going to build. Because once you know you and you've taken the time to get to know yourself, then you can teach people how to treat you. But you
Right.
can't teach people how to treat you if you don't know how to treat you.
Yeah. Yeah. That awareness is everything.
Yes.
Everything. And now you do so much work in schools and with kids and you're with your children's book. Tell us, like, what is a chaos kid? Tell me about that.
And so a chaos kid is a person. So we created characters. I have 7 different characters. Each character has an ACE score. And so ACEs are adverse childhood experiences, which is a list of, 10 things. And if you have 4 more of these things happen to you between 0 and 17, it changes you, it changes you physically, emotionally, and has the ability to reduce your lifespan. And so, we created these characters to help reduce the stigma. And so a chaos kid is a person that has an ACE score of 4 or more. And so, if you have an ACE score of 4 or more, we break down how this impacted you. Again,
Wow.
at what happened to you and not what's wrong with you, because
Right.
that's something that we always do. We're always like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with them? And it's like,
Right.
no, there's nothing wrong with you, but there's quite a possibility that there are some things that have happened to you within your life and they have changed how you interact with the world around you. And that's
Yeah.
what you have to look at. What happened and how did it impact you? And so a chaos kid is a person where life has happened, but we've chosen not to stop. And so we teach our chaos kids how to keep healing and overcoming struggles. We teach them how to recognize. So we go into schools, community centers, different things like that. We're partnering with like the Boys and Girls Club and different districts and things of that nature. And not only do we work with the kids to teach the kids the same chaos skills, but we also work with the adults that the kids are interacting with, as far as the staff, superintendents, parents, support staff, everybody, because we all have to be on the same page. And it's
Yeah.
important for the adult chaos kids to recognize that, it's a great possibility that our younger babies have the ability to trigger the unhealed things inside of them. And so,
Right.
that is, it's very important for individuals to know that. And so, like when I first started Chaos, it literally was just working with kids. And so we went from working with kids, and I'm like, wait, I can't keep sending you back into the same environment where you learn this from. And then we started working with the adults. And then it's like, wait a minute, the community is broken as well. And so we've branched out. And so people know us as K.H.A.O.S kids, but now it's not just for children, it's for everybody, because we're all K.H.A.O.S kids in some way, form, or fashion. And so being able to identify where things shifted with you, being able to identify how certain things that happened to you in your life impacted you, and how those things are continuing to impact you are very important.
It's a huge awareness to have, like, oh, that thing that happened when I was 3 resulted in X, Y, and Z for me. Yeah, it's an unfolding process. But what I love most is the representation that these children and their adults in their lives can look at these K.H.A.O.S kids and recognize these habits, patterns, behaviors within themselves and feel like, oh, okay, so maybe there's not anything wrong with me because she's saying there's not anything wrong with me.
Yes.
So some things happened to me.
Yes.
And yeah.
I
was just going to say, like, bad kids aren't bad kids. They're kids that have had bad things happen.
Yes. And I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as a bad kid. It's just poor choices. And I only make my choices based off of the selection of things that I thought I had to choose from.
Right.
And so we have to expand the toolbox so that you have different choices to make, and so there's a different outcome. But, we can't keep knocking our babies for things that they never learned and we never exposed them to. But that happened. And I say all the time, broken parents raise broken babies. They send them to broken schools with broken educators, in broken communities, policed by broken officers, overseen by broken politicians. Everybody's broken. But what do? We go to the youngest people, in it, and we say they need to fix their face. They need to behave. They need to do this and that. Well, if I didn't learn it as a kid and I didn't learn it as an adult, I still don't have it. And so sometimes, the whole thing about K.H.A.O.S is really increasing that, that emotional intelligence, really increasing that, because a lot of times we learned how to be academically successful, but we are not emotionally ready to operate in this world around us.
Yeah. And specifically in, like you said at the very beginning, in underserved communities, where it's just not really talked about very much, like mental wellness for Black and Hispanic and low income, it's like this inaccessible thing, and you're like bringing it to the people, and I just admire that so much because everybody needs it.
Yes, and we all deserve it. I tell everybody that I work with, we know what it feels like to hurt and hold on. And we all deserve to know what it feels like to be happy, healthy, and thriving. And just being honest, in more affluent communities, therapy is something that is taught, when you're little, you go to a therapist. But for us in our communities, in Black and brown communities, therapy is seen as a problem. It's wrong. That means that you're crazy. No. If you will go, and I say it all the time, if you will go to a dentist if you're having a toothache, and you will go to the hospital if you were having body pain really bad, or you will go to, an eye doctor if you can't see, there's absolutely nothing wrong with going to a therapist to help you learn how to deal with your emotions.
Absolutely.
So with K.H.A.O.S, the whole thing, we're just normalizing it, making it just as simple as, I'm going to go get my hair done. I'm going to go get my car tuned up. I am going to go see my therapist to deal with my mental health, and all of it is okay.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Woo. So, queen of acronyms, right? Tell us about your mental wellness is dope.
And so when I say mental wellness is dope, I mean that it is done on purpose every day. And so it goes back to the work part of our raw skill, which is intention, attention, and attitude. Where it's, you have to be intentional. What are the things that you're doing? Why are you doing what you're doing during your day? Just like I get up and I shower and I make sure that my hair is together and I make sure that my clothes are clean and I smell nice before I leave the house. What did I do for my mind? And so teaching people, that, am I meditating? Am I doing breath work? What am I doing? Am I sitting down and writing out what I want? What is it that I am doing to prepare for my day? What do they say? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, So oftentimes we are planning to fail mentally. We are going outside into war and we did not prepare at all, but we look nice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's okay. And so teaching people the importance. I say all the time that, our bodies are like cars. And so we've learned how to do the maintenance on the outside of our cars. But when you lift the hood, the transmission is slipping and we're not going anywhere. So let's stop being pretty parked cars. Let's be intentional about what we're doing. Ask ourselves, why am I doing what I'm doing? Let's be aware of who and what I'm giving my attention to. And that's big, understanding that, you are a compilation of the people that you spend your time with. You are a product of your environment. And so taking the time to assess that, and teaching people how to do what we call an emotional inventory, so you got the pillars in your life: mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. I even throw in, financial, and for my adults, professional, looking at those areas and really asking yourself, where am I? Where do I want to be? And then the work is what happens in the middle, and, constantly being aware, again, being in tune of how things impact me on an everyday basis, sitting down at the end of your day and really asking yourself, what are your highs and lows? What were the things that worked for me and what are the things that did not? And so what do I want to take into the next day? We don't really process. I tell people all the time, this is the reason why I say it's dope. It's done on purpose every day, because we go through our whole days. And like I said, we're on autopilot, just waking up to go and just going through the motions. And so when you sit and you actually process, you're like, oh, okay, these are some things that need to change. But when you look at it, we often spend most of our time in the past or in the future. And we're really not looking at what's happening in the present until it's over.
Right. I was speaking with someone the other day and they said we have an intention deficit disorder. And I was like, yes, we do.
And that's classic, because it really is. It's so much. We have so many distractions. So many distractions. Technology is a gift and a curse. It really is. And so it has really made us be disconnected from ourselves. So we're always stimulated, we're overstimulated, and we're always comparing ourselves to everyone else and everything else. And it's like, you're only in competition with yourself. I tell people every day, it's you versus you. And you only look back to see how far you've come. That's it. Everybody else, you don't know what they had to go through or grow through to get to where they are. And sometimes they're not even where they're telling you they are.
Right. Yeah. We don't.
And so use yourself to be your own gauge, but you have to be intentional about what you're doing.
I think in my personal belief, intention is like nearly everything, because once you set that intention, life or yourself will figure out a way to make that happen. And there's an infinite number of possibilities to make that happen, as long as we're allow that creativity in our minds to expand. But being intentional as we go about our day, when we're inundated with family and work and gotta make the money and all this other stuff, it's like, and the politics and everything on top of that, it can be really, really challenging.
Definitely, it can, and so it's like, it's okay. It's okay to unplug. It's okay to disconnect. And we have to give ourselves permission to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what's, important. You have to be intentional about the time that you spend with yourself. You have to be intentional about the relationship that you build with you. You have to,
Bingo.
I tell people all the time, somebody has to choose you in this here life. Let it be you.
Right. I always say, like, you're the only one you're going to be with from birth until death, so you might as well like it.
And another part of it, if you don't like being with you, how can you be upset if somebody else doesn't like being with you? Just being honest.
I love that. Yeah. So, yeah, taking the time to unplug, like intentionally allowing yourself to have that space for you. And that is a lot. There's a lot of people that resist taking the time and space for themselves, because they got to do, they got to be, they got to achieve. And some of them are a little afraid of what's going to happen when they're quiet with themselves.
Yes. And so that goes back into talking about those trauma responses, fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, because a lot of us are, a lot of us are stuck in fight, where we are very resistant and we are kind of, going against it. And, we're thinking that, people are out to get us. That's a big space to be in, but a lot of us are in flee, where we're working it away, we're exercising it away, we're sleeping it away, we are margarita bundying it away, we're doing
Right.
these different things because I have to keep going, because if I stop, I don't know what's going to happen if I stop. So I can't stop, but like I tell people all the time, when the lights go out and it's just you and yourself, all of it comes back. And so
Yeah.
it's important for you, again, you know what it feels like to hurt and hold on. You deserve to know what it feels like to heal and move forward. So it's absolutely okay for you to tap into yourself, because you can't heal the things that you refuse to acknowledge.
Mm. I love that. And it's like we could distract ourselves and keep ourselves busy or fight against and all the other things. At the end of the day, that crap is still there.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there. So when we turn around, at some point, it's gonna face us.
Yes, or it's either you're either going to use it as a stepping stone to build, or you're going to let it bury you. Which one is it?
Right.
You have to make the decision, but at the end of the day, the decision is yours. No one can heal for you. You have to do it for yourself.
I think that's so important for people to hear. Absolutely, so important.
And it's
So,
okay.
uh, with all of this, what's the like? I love, the chaos and the free and all of those wonderful ways to remember, to remind ourselves. Um, I want to ask you, are those available on your website? Can we find those acronyms to help us remember to do those things?
And so one of the biggest things is I have a huge social media platform. And so like I utilize videos and I make little graphics and things like that. So you can find more in detail. You can find them on like my Instagram at Chaos Mindset, or I actually went viral on TikTok. Did not expect for that to happen. But on TikTok, like at Candice Cox 220, where again, I say mental wellness is dope. So I put those things out there every day and I show how you can apply those skills. I give people little things like little messages and things to help them think about, their mental health. How am I being mentally well today? And so I put those things out there regarding social media, because it seems like that's a way that people are really kind of getting information these days.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, and then on the website, I have information about the Chaos Mindset, and how you can sign up for workshops, bring us into your schools, sign up for professional developments and different things like that.
I think every school everywhere should have this work. I just think it needs to happen for everyone that deals with kids. So that's the value I place on the work that you do. I just want you to know that. And and everyone will be able to access your social media and your website. I'll share it with the group.
Awesome.
So yeah, I appreciate that. Oh, it's been so wonderful. I just love talking with you.
Well, thank you so much. Before we wrap up, I always ask, can I say my chaos affirmation?
Please.
Thank you. And so this chaos affirmation, I am a chaos kid. And so, it's something that I wrote for myself. And I started to share it with students at a high school one day. And I said it and they were like, oh, you should say that all the time because it helps me. And so hopefully it could help someone else. And if you like it, it is also a video on the Chaos Mindset Instagram page. And so here it is. My story is my story because it makes me who I am. I'm never ashamed of what I've been through. I'm now doing the best I can. My feelings are my feelings, even when it's a burden to hold. There is nothing wrong with saying it's hard to carry the load. I reset now to remember every situation encourages thought. When I realize, admit, and work through my issues, I can get wrong. I embrace my whole truth as I break free. Forgive, release, embrace, and elevate over any dis-ease. One day at a time, no shame on the days I feel troubled. Working hard every day to keep healing and overcoming struggles. You got it.
I love that. We need to make that in a poster.
Thank
and
you.
put it up on walls. Let's
I say it
make
every
that
day.
happen. Add to your merch shop.
Let's go. You know what? That's a good idea. I think I
Yeah.
might. What I do is I have it as little cards, and kids get it. And like even when I do professional developments, I give it to adults and different things like that. And one of my desires is to start bringing chaos into corporate spaces.
Mm,
Because it all is a trickle down effect. And
yeah.
so I think that everybody. I think chaos is for kids, but chaos is for everybody. We're all chaos kids in some way, form, or fashion. We just have to figure out: are we the can't help acting out severely chaos kids, or the keep healing and overcoming struggles chaos kids? But also
Yeah.
recognizing that you can go from one to the other. You can grow from one to the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, goodness. If I had someone like you in my life between between 7 and like say 37, things would have been a lot like easier for me. Not that I needed it to be easier, but it would have really helped me transmute some things a lot faster, I think. And I wouldn't have fallen down and struggled as much in my healing process. Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Everything with the chaos mindset. I tell people all the time, it's not what I do, it's who I am. I utilize these skills on an everyday basis. And so, I say, if I can be a rose that grew from concrete, you can too. And it doesn't matter. It does not matter what what your background is. It doesn't matter what your makeup is. We are all chaos kids in some way, form, or fashion. And so if I can heal and grow, you can heal and grow, and we can do it together.
Well, that's one of the things that I love that you share on social media is like you just are real. Like you just put it, you're having a bad day, it's out there and you work through it publicly to show people how to work through it.
Yeah, I think that that's important. One thing that people always talk about, they're like, when they meet me in person, they're like, you're just like you are on social media. I'm like, I should be. I think, authenticity is it. I wake up every day to be me, and every day I can only be myself because everybody else is taken. And I encourage everybody else to do that as well, because once you embrace your story and who you are, then it takes away other people's ability to use that against you.
Mm-hmm. The level of self-acceptance,
Yeah.
like that's really it. Like you don't always have to like yourself, although that's nice,
Yeah.
but to be able to just be okay with who you are at any given moment and just be like, it's okay. She got it. At some point, she's gonna figure it out.
And it's two phrases that I always use. One is I say no bad days, just bad moments.
Hmm.
And the other one I say there are no losses in life. They're just lessons and leveling up. That's it.
Yeah. I love your mindset. Like you keep it positive, but you also keep it real and you just are constantly reframing these things in your own life and for other people.
Yeah.
And that's just so huge. I think that this talk is going to be major impactful.
I
I
hope
hope
so.
everyone sees it.
I hope so. I just want us to all understand that, there's no reason to be ashamed of yourself or ashamed of your story. Everyone, we all have a story to tell. And so there's no reason for us to judge anyone just because they struggle differently than you do. And it's just, don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself grace and always just, show up. Regardless if you show up at 100% or you show up at 10, just show up. That's
Yeah.
it. Give it all you got. That's all you can do, and be okay with that.
Can I ask you, so when we do act out, when we don't catch ourselves, right? And then you get that little blip of regret or
Yeah.
shame. What's
Yeah.
the best way to address that? Like let go of that regret and shame.
And so that goes back to that, reset, that remember every situation encourages thought. And it's like, okay, let's look at it. This is how I reacted. Okay, how do I feel about it? What are some things that I could have done differently? And so giving myself grace, kind of going back to the free skill a little bit too, forgiving myself
Mm-hmm.
not being who I felt I should have been in that moment.
Right.
Releasing yourself from the unrealistic expectations. This is what happened. Your trauma is always going to be a part of you, but it's not who you are. And so every once in a while, you're gonna make a decision, because we operate 90% from our subconscious and 10% from our conscious brain, and so it's like giving yourself grace, embracing it. This is what happened. I'm not gonna be too hard on myself. I'm not, this is how it's impacted me today, but what do I want to do with this tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
And then, again, that E is elevating, not why, but what and how, and moving forward, and so sometimes it takes, I call it me time, mindfulness enhancement. And so sometimes it takes going and you're meditating. Sometimes it takes doing a little breath work. Sometimes it takes a little sound healing. Sometimes, sometimes it takes going to Starbucks and getting a caramel macchiato and just sitting there rocking out to your favorite song until you kind of
Right.
feel
Yeah.
balance. Whatever it is, find those things, create a list of things that help you level out and go back to them.
Yeah. Oh, I
You know,
love that.
yes, every day is not gonna be a good day. It just is.
Right.
It's not, but just don't get so caught up in it. Just because you make a mistake, the whole day's not shot. Constantly remind yourself, no bad days, just bad moments, and give yourself grace.
That list is super major important. When I did suicide prevention training, they're like, when you have a good day, make the list of things to help you through your bad day
Yeah.
so that you can be prepared. Leave it someplace where you can see it regularly, pull yourself up out,
Yeah.
the things that nourish and nurture you and
Yes.
fill you up. Yeah.
I am very big on there's a phrase that I used when I was I was depressed. This is where the raw skill came from. When my son was probably about 3 months old and he's 12 now. And I was brushing my teeth and I looked at myself in the mirror and I locked eyes with myself. And for the first time, how you look at yourself, but you don't really look at yourself. I caught eyes and I looked so sad. And I was like, when was the last time that I smiled and I was happy and I didn't know? And so there's an affirmation that came from that. And I wrote it in a dry erase with a dry erase marker on my mirror in my bathroom, because you go in the bathroom every day for something.
Yeah.
And it's, as the affirmation is, I will no longer be a prisoner of my own mind. Mentally, physically, and spiritually, I will be free to be me. And so, that affirmation is something, write whatever you need, make your list, but also write positive things to yourself. What you tell yourself is your truth. It may not be the truth, but it's your truth and it's what you operate off of, and so, make sure that you are telling yourself positive things. Make sure that you are telling yourself things that are going to help you move forward, and put it in places, just like your list. Put your list in places that you see. You may have to make it a screensaver on your phone, things like that, but also write things on your mirrors in your bathroom. Write them in places that you're always going to see them, so that you constantly, it's called rewiring your neurotransmitters. You know what I mean? So it's like, and there are certain ways and things that we are programmed. You have to unlearn the things that you have taught yourself are right and relearn new ways of doing things. And repetition is key.
One of the biggest things I struggled with was like, I could own my shit on an everyday basis, right? Like I could own it. I had a harder time tapping into the greatness inside of me, the good things. And so it took literally a room full of people looking me in the face, telling me good things about myself for me to be like, okay, wait, they're not all lying.
And you had to sit in it. You know what I mean? And, and that's another big thing that you just brought up. Don't be so busy fixing yourself that you don't realize the places that you've grown.
Yeah.
And so it's absolutely okay to celebrate you. Celebrate your baby steps. Celebrate it. That's across the board. Be intentional. Own your shit. Definitely own it, but also recognize when you've moved to a different space. Celebrate. I used to do this, but I don't do that anymore.
Right. Yeah. But make the list of all the things that you bring to the table, because everybody's got something. And if you don't know, ask your people that love you. They'll tell you.
Yes. And, so surround yourself with people that are going to be honest with you, not the people that just fluff you up.
Right. Yeah. Make sure they'll tell you if you've got spinach in your teeth.
I tell people, like the real people that I call friends, I say, real relationships are built with vulnerability and transparency. And if you can't be vulnerable and transparent with the people that you call friends, I need you to start calling them associates, because they're not friends.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's real. That's real. We just get to the truth and we just dig in.
That's it. And it's like, hey, I may be upset with you for a minute, but I'm gonna call back and be like, so are we going for coffee later or not? I still love you though. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so fantastic. I just so appreciate you, Candice. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your love here.
Thank you.
And
From my heart to yours always.
yeah, take good care.
Thank you. You do the same. Bye-bye.